Here's Brian Shapiro.
All right, what's happening, everybody? A very happy Hump Day Wednesday to all of you out there. You could be listening on the KSHP FM AM dial, the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. You could be watching on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitch, X, everywhere. We're all over the place, and we're glad that you make us a part of your day. And boy, do we have a lot to get to today. The most interactive show, certainly in the Valley, and a lot to go over and a lot to talk about. And I just want to get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. There are a lot of ignorant people on universities across the country. A lot of these ignorant people are brainwashed. Some of them are still teenagers, late teenagers, but 18, 19 years old, 20, 21 years old. Very uninformed people, and a percentage of these people are extremely hateful and anti-Semitic. But there are also a lot of clowns on the right and a lot of idiots on the right that are blaming Joe Biden for this. And it is interesting to me because these people that want to blame Joe Biden for these anti-Israel protests across the country are the same idiots that were very quiet when all these Black Lives Matter protests were going on, because it is interesting, isn't it? You had all these Black Lives Matter protests, and whenever you bring up January 6th, a lot of these right-wing idiots, what about, it was supposed to be the summer of love, right? What about all those BLM protests? Well, that happened under Donald Trump. Was that Donald Trump's fault? But yet when you have these protests, these anti-Israel, many of them anti-Semitic protests, they want to blame Joe Biden. It's absurd. And then you have Kevin Bowling, that douchebag on Newsmax that's dissecting Joe Biden eating a salad. Have you seen that clip? I mean, these people are just so far gone, and they're so ridiculous, and they're so ignorant. But I want to give you just a small example of what I'm talking about. Listen, I can go on any right-wing entity, and they're all going to blame Joe Biden for their hangnail, right? But they're trying to make the case that this is Joe Biden's fault. Listen to this moron on Fox News trying to blame Joe Biden for these protests going on these universities across the country.
I can't imagine what these students are going through. We have to bring a hammer on this incitement of violence. This reminds me of what happened as Jews were trying to enter Vienna University in 1938, and Nazis were preventing them from doing so. This is the type of incitement that we're allowing in the United States under Joe Biden's watch. This would have never happened under President Trump. Biden is complicit in this violence, and he's not saying anything, Maria, because you've seen Manmo's poll come out saying 20% of his base is for this type of violence. He is pandering to this liberal elite, and at the expense of our students, at the expense of our country, at the expense of democracy.
Yeah, I wonder where you got that stat from, you stupid witch, you right-wing buffoon, you. 20% of Biden supporters want to see violence. Where did you get that stat from, you idiot? OAN? You stupid moron. And when all those BLM protests were going on, did you blame Donald Trump for that? What about January 6th? Now all of a sudden you care about incitement of violence? You stupid witch. You right-wing fool, you. These stupid idiots that want to blame Joe Biden. They want to blame Joe Biden for the Hamas attacks. They want to blame Joe Biden for Vladimir Putin invading another country. It's all Joe Biden's fault. You frickin' morons. I'm so sick of it. You morons on the right. Anything happens under Donald Trump, pure silence, right? The BLM protest, oh no, that wasn't Donald Trump's fault. That was Antifa. That was George Soros. Do you know that there are right-wing entities across this country on Fox News, on OAN, on Newsmax that are saying George Soros, who happens to be a Jewish man, is funding these anti-Israel protests? Now, obviously, there's no evidence to prove that. All these people do is lie and blame Joe Biden for everything and then stay silent. And then when Donald Trump is finally held to account for something, oh, it's, the two-tier justice system. Oh, no, Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. It's a nothing burger. If you go on Newsmax, which, by the way, I can't bother to stand for more than 5 seconds, you'll hear them saying all these charges are nothing. It's a nothing burger. He did nothing wrong. They're empty. It's all politically motivated. It's the two-tier justice system. As Donald Trump would say, it's the Joe Biden trial. And in the same breath, these morons believe that Donald Trump deserves immunity, but let's go convict Joe Biden. You cannot make this stuff up. These people on the right, they're so ridiculous. These right-wing entities, the Sean Hannitys, the Laura Ingrams, they're despicable, and they're all liars. Even locally, on the show yesterday, if you watched the show yesterday, we had former North Las Vegas Mayor John Lee Really nice man. I don't agree with him on everything. He went on this show and he endorsed Donald Trump. Obviously, I disagree with him on that. And then some of his Republican opponents and their PR people said that he sounded like a liberal on the show yesterday. I mean, they just make stuff up. And I've had it with these people. I really have had it. The same people that are 100% all in for Donald Trump, by the way. They're all in. And they want to talk about incitement of violence. They want to blame Joe Biden for these anti-Israel protests. I tell you, folks, it's just getting worse and worse. It really is. These people have lost their mind. And just like all these anti-Israel protests going on across the country, I think we all could agree many of these people are brainwashed. So are these people on the far right that I talk to every single day. They watch their Newsmax, they watch their OAN, and they are brainwashed. They believe everything they hear from Donald Trump. They believe everything they hear from Newsmax and OAN. Two-tier justice system. Joe Biden is the one that indicted Donald Trump, and they believe it. They're brainwashed. Now, I think it takes a certain level of stupidity to be brainwashed like that without knowing your facts. Many of these people throughout the country that are protesting on some of these college campuses, and many of them, even right here at UNLV today, they don't even know what they're protesting. They'll chant out, Israel, pro-genocide. And I said this earlier today on social media, and I'll say it again. If Israel wanted to commit genocide, they would have by now. They could take out a country with their artillery. They could take out Iran, wipe them off the face of the planet. They could do the same thing with every single person in Gaza today if they wanted to. But they haven't. Why? Because they do not want to commit genocide. They want to get rid of every single Hamas terrorist in that vicinity because they are defending themselves. With that, sadly, in war, innocent people die. It's terrible. I wish it didn't happen. But you cannot tell me that, as much as I don't always agree with Benjamin Netanyahu, that he wants to take out an entire group of people unless we're talking about Hamas. Because if they wanted to take out every single Palestinian person, they would have done it by now. Trust me, they have the artillery to do it. But they haven't, because they're not trying to commit genocide. And these people across the country here on these universities are idiots. They're morons. They're uneducated. Many of them don't even know why they're there. They're very stupid, for lack of a better term. These are very dumb people, late teens, early 20s types. And then there's a very small percentage, in my opinion, but a percentage of people at these rallies that are extremely anti-Semitic. And maybe some of them, I don't know, maybe some of them, if they had the opportunity, maybe they would go and fight with Hamas. Maybe they are Hamas sympathizers. I don't know every single one of them, but I can tell you the overwhelming majority of these people are very stupid and they're idiots. And they don't even know why they're there. They just want to protest something. And they're cowards. And they cover their faces so that people can't recognize them. Why? Because they're jihad fighters? No. Because they're cowards. Because they don't want people to recognize them. That's why. Because if you chant out genocide to the Jews, or if you chant out death to Israel, they know that in most cases, if people find out who you are, you're going to lose your job, and rightfully so. It is despicable. These people are dumb as a doornail. Just as I would say about Donald Trump's base. Dumb as a doornail. Brainwashed people. There's a lot of stupid people in this country that support Donald Trump. There's a lot of stupid people in this country that are protesting at universities, just about every university out there. And I have some audio for you to prove it, how stupid some of these people are. That's really what this comes down to. Pure stupidity. If you believe Donald Trump won the 2020 election, you're dumb. You're an idiot. Okay? The earth is not flat. Donald Trump did not win in 2020, and Israel is not committing genocide. Because, as I said, they have the artillery to do it if they wanted to, and they haven't. I want you to listen to what I am talking about here. This is in New York, on campus, where you have a speaker defending Hamas, literally, and you have a crowd in the background cheering this idiotic moron. Have a listen to this.
Not terrorists. They are resistance fighters. They are freedom fighters and war heroes for a new world. And as in so many ways, as it is in so many ways, as it shuts down the supply lines of genocide, Yemen is leading the way.
So completely unhinged and a lunatic, and these people are cheering. She just called members of Hamas heroes. Heroes. I don't know what's worse, that or when Donald Trump calls those on January 6th that attacked and brutally assaulted police officers patriots. I mean, I think they go hand in hand. They're both despicable. Heroes. Terrorists who put babies in ovens, beheaded children, raped women, gouged out the eyes of the husband as their wife is being raped, cutting off legs and fingers of children. And this despicable, ignorant terrorist speaking called them heroes. I'm almost at a loss for words how ignorant some of these people are, and then people cheering in the background. This is audio of a Jewish student that we are going to play for you next, who's wearing the Star of David necklace. He's denied entry into his own university, not by university employees, no, by the wannabe jihadists and anti-Semites out there. And why are they doing this? At his own university? For no other reason than he's Jewish. And this is happening right here in this country. And this is at UCLA. This is audio of a Jewish student at UCLA the other day just trying to go to class.
You guys have closed the entrance. We are UCLA students. I have my ID right here. I'm being blocked off, not by the security guard, but by you two. You three. Oh, look, they're making their burger while I'm going this way. Excuse me. This is what they do. Everybody, look at this. Look at this. I'm a UCLA student. I deserve to go here. We pay tuition. This is our school. And they're not letting me walk in. My class is over there. I want to use that entrance. Why can't they go? Will you let me go in? This could be over in a second. Just let me and my friends go in to class.
We're not engaging.
Then you can move. Will you move?
We're not engaging.
Okay, we're going. We're going. I'm going in. I have my hands up. I'm not hurting them.
So what these morons are doing, these cowards who hide their faces because they don't want to be recognized, and they think they're tough jihadist fighters who wouldn't last 5 seconds with Hamas. They're forming a little blockade in this video and the audio that you just heard, not allowing this student to simply go to class because he's Jewish. Those students should not only be arrested, but they should be charged, in my opinion, with a hate crime. These students, some of these students, not all of them are students, but some of them that are at these anti-Israel protests are some of the dumbest people this country has to offer. Put them and some of those January 6th insurrectionists in a cage somewhere. I mean, really, that's how I feel. And then these students in Columbia, how dumb some of them are, most of them, because it's too hot outside. These pampered students, these wealthy pampered students that have probably never accomplished anything in their life, and their rich parents are paying for their tuition at Columbia. These pampered brats who think they're doing something right. They're fighting. They're heroes. They're the biggest cowards you can find. Because it's too hot outside, then they put up their tents in this building at Columbia. And then the police do what they're supposed to do. The NYPD, by the way, is getting a lot of flack, and I don't understand why. They have a very difficult job to do, and I'm glad they were called in there. Then they surround the building. These students had the opportunity to leave. They were told that they were going to be arrested if they didn't leave, and then they were locked out so they couldn't go out, and then they were whining and bitching and complaining. There's some students saying, I have finals. I just want to go home. You stupid idiots. You had the opportunity to go home. You stayed there. Listen to this student at Columbia who is dumb as a doornail when she's grilled by a reporter because she's saying she's demanding the university help feed the protesters occupying Hamilton Hall when all the students have to do is leave. And in this country, luckily, they have the freedom to leave and then go get some food. But she is making the case, why isn't the university going out of their way to feed some of these students at this protest? Folks, it doesn't get any dumber than this. Have a listen.
Why should the university be obligated to provide food to people who've taken over a building? Well, first of all, we're saying that they're obligated to provide food to students who pay for a meal plan here.
But you mentioned that there was a request that food and water be brought in, unless I misunderstood.
To allow it to be brought in. I mean, well, I guess it's ultimately a question of what kind of community and obligation Columbia feels it has to its students. Do you want students to die of dehydration and starvation or get severely ill, even if they disagree with you? If the answer is no, then you should allow basic, I mean, it's crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
But they did put themselves in that very deliberately in that situation and in that position. So it seems like you're sort of saying, we want to be revolutionaries, we want to take up this building. Now, would you please bring us food and water?
Nobody's asking them to bring anything. We're asking them to not violently stop us from bringing in basic humanitarian aid.
They're stopping the delivery of food.
We are looking for a commitment from them that they will not stop it
But
violently.
they haven't stopped it.
I don't know to what extent it has been attempted, but we're looking for a commitment.
Yeah, because it's not happening, you stupid idiot. Yeah, I got a take for you. You guys ready for this? If you're dumb enough to do one of these protests and barricade yourself in a campus building when police are telling you have to go, you're going to get arrested. And you're dumb enough that you're dehydrated and you're hungry. And you expect the university to hand deliver food and beverages to you, you deserve to die of starvation. Yeah, I'm just going to say it, ladies and gentlemen. If you're that stupid, you deserve to die. And by the way, none of that's happened. Because if a student was that malnourished, by the way, they put themselves in that situation, you're that hungry, you could walk a couple 100 feet to the student center and buy yourself something to eat or get yourself something to drink. And by the way, nobody's stopping anybody from delivering food and water to all those stupid morons. If you're that dumb enough that you would stay in your little tent because you think you're a tough guy and you don't leave, and then the excuse is, hey, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, then in this country, unlike the jihadist countries that you support, in this country, you can get up, you can leave, and you can buy yourself something to eat, get yourself something to drink, because we live in the United States of America, you fools. This stupid moron, and I don't know what her name was, speaking in front of the media. Well, we need a commitment from the university that they're not going to block us from helping people and giving people food and water. Is there any evidence that they're doing that? No, I'm not aware of it, but we just want a commitment. I mean, how stupid can you be? I mean, where are we at as a country where there are so many dumb people, so many morons in this country? Forget about even hatred. Forget about anti-Semitism for a moment. Forget about your hatred towards another group of people. How stupid of a person do you have to be? I mean, it's too hot outside. We don't want to put our tents outside. So, we're going to, all of our masks and everything. Maybe if you weren't wearing 3 layers of masks to hide your face, maybe you wouldn't be so hot to begin with. But we're going to barricade ourselves inside a building. And then when the police gives us opportunities to leave, and if we don't leave, we're going to be arrested. Then we wonder why the doors are locked and why police barricade the building. Where's our food? Where's our water? We're going to die of starvation. These people are really some of the most idiotic people I've ever heard of in my life. I put them right along the lines of those that are insurrectionists on January 6th. These are some of the dumbest people that America has to offer. Really idiotic. And it's interesting because I watched a video on social media today, and it's quite good, by the way. It's a guy that did an experiment, an American citizen who did an experiment. And this American citizen that did the experiment, he walks into one of these protests with an American flag. He doesn't say anything. It's not even an Israeli flag. He doesn't say anything. He just walks in among these wannabe jihadists. And they start pushing him. They start shoving him. He doesn't say anything. They physically assault him and push him and tell him to get out. And all he did was bring an American flag in. Why aren't those people being arrested? I know that there are some arrests. I get it. And it was a social experiment, and it proved his point that these people also hate America. They're so dumb. And, you know, people on the right, again, they want to score political points and want to claim that all these people are registered Democrats. There's no proof to show of that, or that George Soros funded this, or it's Joe Biden's fault. Everybody has a right to peacefully protest. We can disagree, but that's not what's really going on here. They're on private property. They're barricading themselves in buildings. They are physically assaulting innocent Jewish people. They are not allowing Jewish people to go to class or walk freely among the campus. That is illegal, and they should go to jail. I know some of them have, many of them should. I consider this a hate crime. You are taking a group of people. And I asked this question, and I think it's a very fair question. What if this was a university where a bunch of white people were not allowing black people to go to their classes? What if this was a university where a bunch of white people were not allowing black people to walk freely? Would this be going down the same way? I hope not. I hope every single one of those people would be arrested for a hate crime. That's what should be going on here. I don't think they're being tough enough on these wannabe jihadists, these cowards wearing their masks. And I'm going to go to one of these rallies today. I want to find out how stupid these people are. It's happening on the UNLV campus today. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to find out how stupid these people actually are. I think many of them are extremely stupid people. But the bottom line here is this. This shouldn't be a right thing or a left thing. There's no evidence to prove that these people are all Democrats, even though right-wingers out there would like you to believe that, because they just throw things at a wall and hope that it sticks. They want to blame Joe Biden, but when all the Black Lives Matter protests were going on, and sadly some of them turned violent, did they blame Donald Trump for that? Of course they didn't. That was the Democrats. That was George Soros. That was Antifa. But now you have these protests going on throughout the country, and they want to blame Joe Biden, as if Joe Biden said, hey, everybody, I want all the Jew haters in America to go down to these universities. I mean, it's beyond ridiculous, because these MAGA Republicans have nothing else. They have nothing else to go on. They want to talk about the economy. They can't. The economy's been headed in the right direction for the last 2 years. Inflation continues to go down. The NASDAQ way up. Job manufacturing way up. Joe Biden can run on his record. So what are Republicans doing? Oh, this would have never happened under Donald Trump. They say the same thing about the war in the Ukraine. That would be like, a Democrat saying COVID would have never happened under Joe Biden. But, you don't hear Democrats talk like that, because it's not true, because they don't make things up like these right-wing morons do, like Donald Trump does every single day. And when we come back, we're going to have some audio to play for you, too, where Donald Trump is making a bizarre claim, being caught in a lie again on national television in an interview. This has to do with Venezuela and crime. Another embarrassing moment for Donald Trump. And what is the prosecution in the hush money case using against him? Some of the audio that we're going to date back to 2016, and I'm going to play some audio for you when we come back as well. And I also want to take some phone calls on this. Number to call if you want to be a part of the program is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you do want to be a part of the program, 702-221-7283. Do I have this wrong? Is Ilhan Omar not despicable? Rashida Tlaib, is she not despicable? I understand if you don't want innocent people to die. I don't either. It shouldn't matter whether you're in Gaza or in Israel. We all don't want innocent people to die, but make no mistake about it. This is happening because of what Hamas started. And these morons across the country, these 18, 19, 21-year-old idiots who have no idea why they're even there. They have no idea what has been going on in this conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. No idea what's going on. They have no idea who Hamas is or what they have done. You have people on campuses that are calling them heroes. Hamas, heroes, people who behead babies and throw them in ovens. You cannot make this stuff up. I haven't spoken to one Jewish person that claims that they are pro-genocide. Guess why? Because Israel is not committing genocide. While innocent people have died in war and Israel is trying to conquer Hamas, who have infiltrated themselves among the innocent Palestinian people, Israel has a right to defend themselves, and that is exactly what they have done. Am I right? Am I wrong? 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. Your calls on the other side of the break. We'll be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. You know, no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
Residents of Las Vegas Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your People's Choice for City Council, with a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen. I am committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith, because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com, paid for by the Vote Dr. Smith Committee.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840. All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. So glad all of you could join us, and I ask that you join in supporting our sponsors of the show, including Pioneer Air. Summer right around the corner. I tell you, I got pretty hot last night, had to use some air conditioning, and you don't want your air conditioning to go poo-poo on you when it's 120 degrees outside. So call Pioneer Air, and I have a special just for listeners of PTL. If you call them right now, you're going to get a free year of scheduled maintenance, which is worth up to $150. No catch. Just mention the name of this show. New Frontier and Clean Air, Pioneer Air. As I said, they've been around since the 1930s. Give them a call, 703-6346. That's 702-703-6346. Also email them at info@pioneerairlv.com. Just a note for you that the judge presiding over the hush money case has fined Donald Trump $9,000 for breaking a gag order. I wish somebody, quite frankly, would put a gag in his mouth, and not in a good way, in a bad way, if you know what I'm saying. Do I think he's going to send Donald Trump to jail? Probably not. Do I wish he would? Absolutely. But if he continues to break the gag order, and you have to keep in mind, Donald Trump's not capable of keeping his mouth shut. He's falling asleep in court. He's never been held to account for anything in his entire life. So when he's told to do something, it's rare that he actually abides by it. And I think he's going to break the gag order again. And then the judge is going to have a decision to make. These are unprecedented times that we are living in. So, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. And we'll get more to the Donald Trump stuff here in just a little bit. We've been talking about these. And again, I don't like to call them pro-Palestinian protests because that's not what they are. These are anti-Israel, anti-Semitic protests. And for people on social media, and most people agree with me, there's a few people that don't, claiming that I'm lying. What exactly am I lying about? Israel has the artillery where if they wanted to commit genocide, they could. They could wipe Iran off the face of the earth if they wanted to. They could wipe out every innocent Palestinian person in the world if they wanted to. I don't want them to do that. I'm just making the case that with their artillery and their defense systems and what they have in place, they have the ability to do so. They haven't done it. Why? Because they're not trying to commit genocide. Why is this happening? Because they are defending themselves from Hamas, a terrorist group that's been around since the 1980s. It was Israel's 9/11. Yes, way too many innocent lives have been lost here. It's not Israel's fault. It's the fault of Hamas, and Israel has a right to defend themselves. And Hamas, I asked some of these dopes that are protesting on these campuses, I would ask them, after Hamas beheaded babies, threw children in ovens, raped women, killed the husbands in front of the wives and the children, after this happened on October 7th, what should Israel have done? Should they have just put their hands in the air and waved their white flag and said, geez, please don't do it again. Please leave us alone. We surrender. Is that what Israel should have done? I'd love to ask some of these morons, if you were Israel, how would you respond? Because if Israel responded in the way you wanted them to respond, Israel would be wiped off the planet, period. If you want this war to truly end, then it's up to Hamas. If Hamas releases the hostages, and if Hamas puts down their weaponry, and for lack of a better term, gives up with their massacring of innocent Jewish people, if Hamas steps down and stops doing what they're doing and surrenders, this war is over. But Hamas will not do that. They're a terrorist organization that has been around since the mid-'80s, and the Rashida Tlaibs and the Ilhan Omars that seem to want to defend Hamas, and some of these speakers that are speaking on these college campuses that are ignorant, despicable people that are calling members of Hamas heroes and freedom fighters are some of the dumbest people that America has to offer. They're dangerous and they're stupid. I guess the two go hand in hand. We're taking your phone calls on this, and if you think I'm lying, you don't think I'm telling the truth, then why don't you call in? Why don't you show the guts to call into this show? Otherwise, you're just like these people who wear all this crap on their face and hide their face because they're cowards. You are a coward. You go on social media and you say, I'm lying. I'm not telling the truth. Really? Why don't you call into the show and why don't you tell me how I'm lying? You're no better than them. You hide behind your hatred for the Jewish people. You hide behind whatever scarves you're putting on, hiding your neck and your face. Why are you doing that? Because you're a jihadist? Why? No, you're doing it because you're a coward, because you don't want people to recognize you, maybe your own family, that I would imagine many families would be embarrassed with their kids and what they're doing on these campuses across the country. Your hatred for the Jewish people and your ignorance and your ability to be brainwashed without knowing the facts is mesmerizing to me. Mesmerizing. 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call. We have one phone line open, 702-221-SAVE. Why don't we go to Linda? Linda is first up on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, what's on your mind?
I want to know your thoughts on this, okay?
Yep.
Now, what Hamas did on October 1st. Totally disgusting, and they should pay. I agree with that. Now, what I'm thinking, and what's your thoughts? I know Israel has very sophisticated capabilities and quality intel, and I was wondering, I think that they could weed out Hamas a little more pinpointed than they have been, because they went into Syria and they sort of knew where two of the generals, Iranian generals or whatever, higher ups, they got them pretty pinpointed. Now, I don't want to see innocent people killed. And I just think Israel can do a better job.
Well, I don't know how they can do a better job, Linda. And the reason why I say that is because members of Hamas have infiltrated themselves among the Palestinian people.
I understand that.
So it's a very complicated and difficult situation. And I'm not in the Israeli government. Obviously, I have no affiliation with anybody in our government. But even what Blinken and so many others have said in the Biden administration is how difficult this is. Yes, Israel does have a response.
It's tight. It's very tight in
right.
Israel, in Gaza.
Sure,
I understand
sure.
that.
Israel has a responsibility certainly for the least amount of casualties, but at the same time, this is exactly what Hamas wanted. So it's a very, very difficult situation. But I haven't heard stories of Israeli soldiers raping children, putting babies in ovens.
No,
I'm
not. No way defending Hamas. They are disgusting.
No, I know that,
and they need to be taken out.
Right.
Yes. I agree with that.
I'm not saying you are. I know that. All I'm saying is this. First of all, the rhetoric on the right, once again. George Soros, they're claiming, is funding the...
Oh, no.
George Soros is Jewish, by the way, so these people are so dumb, some of them don't
I don't
even know
listen
that.
to those morons anyway.
It's so idiotic. They're saying that a Jewish man is funding these anti-Israel protests, which, by the way, couldn't be further from the truth. And then they're saying this is Joe Biden's fault. And then when you talk about January 6th, they want to talk about Black Lives Matter protests. They've never blamed Donald Trump for that. Oh, yeah, by the way, that happened under his watch. I didn't blame Donald Trump for that either. But you can't listen to these morons on the right. And then you have the extreme left. And luckily, there are only a few of them that are in office. But Ilhan Omar is a despicable human being. I will never defend her.
I don't agree with some of the far right, but I think there's more far left.
Sure.
I think there's more far right that
Absolutely.
are more despicable.
Absolutely.
But also, in Israel, this is another thing. They have, no way am I, defending Hamas. But in Israel, they have a far right crazy government. And one of the guys in the far right, I don't know who it was, in Israel, he said river to the sea.
Yep, he did, and we all know what that means.
He did. I don't think that's right for either side doing it.
Agree.
Either side.
We all know what that statement means. And anybody who makes that statement is blatantly anti-Semitic. And if you want to talk about genocide, that's exactly what that statement means. So we need to call out these people. If you are a parent out there and you believe one of your children has been brainwashed, you need to help them. Family is important here. And I don't feel sorry for any of these individuals. And quite frankly, any of these individuals that are assaulting Jewish students, which has happened on campuses, they should be prosecuted for hate crimes. And I ask this question because I think it's a prevalent one. What would happen if these were a bunch of white supremacists, or even on the other side? And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if these were black people that weren't allowing white people to walk on campus, or on the other side, if these were white supremacists that weren't allowing black people to walk, this would, I'm telling you right now, this would have gone for maybe one day.
Like a Charlottesville.
Yeah, right. It would have happened
going on?
one day and it wouldn't have been over with, right? Everybody would have been arrested. Right. It wouldn't have been tolerated. Why is this tolerated? Why is it possible that an innocent Jewish person is trying to get to class and these wannabe jihadists are physically assaulting them and stopping them from going to class? Why aren't these people locked up? It gets me.
But a lot of them aren't students. The so-called.
Some of them aren't. Some of them aren't. You are 100% correct.
Well, I think the students are very uneducated. First of all, in high school, they should be more educated before they're even allowed in any of these colleges.
I agree. I mean, some of the dumbest people.
No one knows anything about government, civics, what's going on around the world, anything, geopolitical, nothing these kids know.
These people rise to the level of some of those dumb insurrectionists who thought Donald Trump won the election and thought they can overthrow a free and fair. These people are some of the dumbest people that America has to offer. I don't care if they're 19 or 90. They're complete morons and idiots, and they don't deserve to be on a university in this country, in my opinion. Linda, I appreciate your phone call. Thank you so much for the call from New York. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Carl. What's up, Carl?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good.
Listen, you're talking about most of these idiots at the colleges and whatever are brainwashed. Well, let me tell you something. Brainwashing is a page out of the dictator's handbook. When you tell the same lie over and over and over, and like you've ever heard Trump's speeches, it's the same speech over and wherever he goes, over and over and over, the same lies. Well, how you brainwash a person is by telling that lie over and over and over, and that actually makes them start to believe it. Mm-hmm. Every dictator in the history of the world has done the same thing.
But what frustrates me is you have some people making the excuse of, well, most of these people are just protesting innocent lives in Gaza. When you start chanting death to America, when you start chanting death to Israel, when you start chanting river to the sea, this isn't about innocent lives in Gaza. And I would say to those people out there that want to protest about innocent lives in Gaza and it's a tragedy, I would ask them, what do you want Israel to do? If it's ceasefire, Hamas has been breaking ceasefires, and they just broke one on October 7th. They've been breaking ceasefires since the mid-'80s. What do you want Israel to do? If somebody came into this country, if a terrorist group came into this country and threw babies in ovens, beheaded innocent people, and executed people in front of their families, what would you want America to do? Israel's no different. They have a right to defend themselves.
Yeah, well, any country that's invaded by another force, whether it's Ukraine or whatever. You hear all these people on the right-wing shows saying Russia should win. I mean, they attacked Ukraine. They went into a sovereign country.
Well, I'll tell you this, though, Carl. Carl, I'm going to tell you this. I don't agree with many positions, most of them, when it comes to people on the right, but I'll give them credit for this. Most Republicans are very strong on their position when it comes to these protests. They're very strong on their position when it comes to being pro-Israel, and most Republicans are very right on this issue. Now, I don't agree with these people that are blaming Democrats, that are blaming Joe Biden. That's idiotic, but they're very... I want to see more leadership on the left call out the Ilhan Omars and the Rashida Tlaibs. They have no business being in Congress.
Yeah, but what I said to begin with, it's the brainwashed people.
Yes.
And people are brainwashed by somebody like Trump or whoever repeating the same lie.
You are correct.
Over and over and over.
Carl, you're absolutely...
That's what brainwash is.
I agree, Carl, and I appreciate your call, and you're right. It's a big problem in this country where people are... I cannot believe how many people are brainwashed in this society that we live in today. I can't understand it. The people that have listened to every word that Donald Trump says, the people that listen to an OAN or a Newsmax when it comes to Trump misinformation, the people out there that will listen to some of these wannabe jihadists claiming that Israel is committing genocide when we know they're not. These people are brainwashed. These dumbbells across these universities, across the country, they just want a reason to protest. They want to feel strong, right? They want to feel strong. They want to feel like they're doing something when really they're doing nothing, and they're causing far more harm than good, and they're morons. Oh, it's too hot outside in our tent. Our rich parents take care of us, so we're going to go inside with our tent. They don't even know what it's like to sacrifice anything in their life. Because they're rich, wealthy parents putting them into Columbia University, these pampered brats who think if they're breaking the law, the university should provide them food and water. Hey, idiots, you get up, you leave, and you walk 100 feet to the student center and you get some food. You pampered morons. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Renee. Renee is next on Pushing the Limits. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Brian. I just wanted to thank you for expressing so much of the thoughts that my friends and I'm Jewish as well, have been thinking, but not wanting to start World War III with a whole lot of people that we don't even know. But I totally agree with you. I do, because everybody's forgetting, or they're forgetting, that Hamas is the ones that started this.
Exactly.
If you didn't want this, then you should not have started it.
Right.
And
right.
I like the way they're calling it genocide, and they're saying that, that the Israelis are all doing it. Well, hello, maybe if they would have stood up for themselves and gotten Hamas out of the way, or tried to, maybe if they would have not allowed themselves just to be human shields, this might not be happening.
You know what's so incredible, too, and you're right. You know what's more incredible to me more than anything is that millions of people of the Muslim faith and innocent Palestinians live in Israel free. If they wanted to commit genocide, why would they allow these people to live freely in Israel? That's number one. Number two, what these idiots across the country on these universities don't seem to understand, because they're not very bright and uneducated on this issue, is that Israel has the capabilities and the artillery to wipe them off the planet if they so choose. They could get rid of Gaza and Iran in 1 hour if they wanted to. They have the capabilities to do so. They haven't done it because they don't want to commit genocide. They want to eliminate Hamas. Why is that so hard for these people to understand? I just don't get it.
That's true, although I will say I'm not crazy about Netanyahu.
Neither am I.
Because I think that I have heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, that he had intelligence information about this way before it happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like George W. Bush, right? And Condoleezza Rice, 9/11. We heard reports, and I guess we'll never know for sure what exactly they knew before. We know that it was, I'm never one of those people that's a conspiracy theorist that says America, it was an inside job. I'm not one of those morons that would make a statement like that. However, there were shortcomings and mistakes that were made, certainly. And I would say that it's very possible that the same thing happened in Israel. And I'm not a big Benjamin Netanyahu fan either, but I do support Israel. They have a right to defend themselves.
Yes. And like I keep saying, if Hamas hadn't started this wouldn't be going on, because they would have had no reason to retaliate. And it's like, if you know what they say, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Really good call. Where are you calling from, by the way?
New York City.
I love my friends in New York City, and I love that PTL reaches New York, because I love New Yorkers and I love people like you. Thank you so much for calling in.
Brian. You have a good week.
You as well.
Bye.
Thank you. I love my New Yorkers. This show's getting popular in New York. We get a lot of calls from New York, and I love New York. I'm from Connecticut, have family in New York. 702-221-7283. One phone line open. Let's go to Julian, who's next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Julian.
Hey, my fellow East Coaster relocated to Vegas. So I think the thing that gets lost in this is, so I don't agree with these protests, but I think that, like, for the most part, for most of these college students, it comes out of a good place, right?
Yeah.
It comes out of this. They see human suffering within the Palestinians, right? And sure, they are not the most educated, and they see a large military force attacking people. But I took a little bit of objection to what a caller just said before, because the situation is messy, and to me, there are a lot of bad actors, right?
Sure.
Obviously, Hamas, terrorist organization.
Right.
Netanyahu was facing criminal charges until recently, and that just kind of disappeared with him going into war.
Right, but let's focus. Let's try to focus on, though, if I may, what's going on in this country. I agree with you. There are some bad actors, but there are a lot of stupid followers and stupid brainwashed kids that are going right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But I also think that, as somebody who is a supporter of Israel and who believes there needs to be there, I think that it is important to not lose focus on the fact that that's where this comes from, and especially yes, these kids do not understand they'll learn individual talking points, but they don't truly have an understanding of the nuance and sophistication and complexity of it.
Think about this, though. Think about this for a second, right? You have some of these morons that are barricading themselves in a building at Columbia University because it's too hot outside. And then you have people claiming, which isn't true, by the way, that the university is stopping people from going in there and bringing them food. That was also a lie.
Totally.
Not true. And then they're bitching and moaning because they were given every opportunity to leave. And then when they're arrested, they're whining and saying, "I have finals." I mean, they're very dumb people.
I hear you on that. I guess just one thing that's not with the students, but I want to push back from the prior caller saying the Palestinians should stand up. Hamas kills their political opposition, right? Anytime, the Palestinian people can't really stand on their own, because when Hamas took over from Fatah, presenting themselves as a more centrist, a like they're going to take care of the people. The first thing they did was massacre the old
Okay,
government.
I agree
And then
with you.
anytime-
What you're saying is very important. I agree with you. But why is it that so many of these Palestinians don't seem to understand that Hamas is not? They think Hamas is on their side. Some of them cheered on October 7th. They want Palestinians. They want innocent people to die. They would prefer them to be Jewish people. They don't care about Palestinians either.
I agree. But again, I guess my thing is that, like, this, for nobody, this is not a black and white issue. It is shades of gray. And I do not think that it is productive to the conversation, even when you disagree with people, even when people are advocating for stupid things, to put it as them good or them bad, we good, right? Like, the reality is there's a lot of bad actors, there's a lot of people who are misguided, and there's a lot of people who are justifying horrific things.
No, listen, I completely agree with you, and I appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much. And this stuff needs to end, and it needs to end soon. And this is absolute buffoonery and garbage. Let's take some more phone calls. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Kava, who's next up, pushing the limits. Kava.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So what I wanted to say is I just want to address something that you said yesterday that really caught my attention. Was when you and your guests were talking about how it's not necessarily there's a border wall crisis. I have to disagree with you on that, just based on because I'm an immigrant myself. I don't see it as an issue per se. I think it's mostly because MAGA made it a problem. I feel like they're the ones who caused the problem, to be fair, because, I mean, how's it our fault for coming to America when they were the ones who attacked the Capitol? Yet when immigrants want to survive peacefully on this earth with everyone else, MAGA all of a sudden has an issue with it. I think that's kind of odd, don't you?
I think it's a case-by-case basis, right? Never on this show have I ever said if you're a Trump supporter that I automatically assume that you're a racist or you treat immigrants horribly. I try not to make generalized statements like that, but let's be honest on this. Throughout the country, at these college universities, there are a lot of people that are very stupid on the issues. They're ignorant and they're hateful. And some of those people, not all of them, but some of those people are chanting death to Israel. They want Jews to die. They're physically assaulting students, and they're anti-Semites. Now, not all of them. It might not even be the majority.
You know I don't tolerate that. You know me. You know I don't put up with that crap.
Yeah, well, listen,
because
I
it's
understand.
not okay. It's not.
No, I know that, Kava, and I appreciate you calling in. And I did not say that you were making those claims. I don't believe that about you. But there are people that are chanting death to Israel that are Hamas supporters. They need to be called out. And if you put your hands on a student because of their religion, that's not just assault. In my opinion, that is a hate crime. And it should be called a hate crime. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Patrick, who is next up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Patrick.
Yeah, Brian, in regards to these protesters, man, and these college kids, there's a group called the National Group Representing College Democrats. They released a statement saying that they stand with the pro-Palestine campus protesters.
Okay, and how many of those people are within the organization? Who's running that organization? How many people are in that organization?
Well, this was just released moments ago.
I didn't ask what time. I know I didn't ask what time it was released. I'm asking you give me specific information. How many people are a part of that group? How many of them are Democrats? Who is it run by? Do you have the information?
It was approved by an 8-2 vote.
I didn't. Okay, so
from the group's executive board.
Okay, so let's go with that then. There's a group of 10 people. 10 people.
That was the executive board.
Hold on.
This is a national.
Okay.
National
how many?
organization.
And I ask you again, how many people are in the organization? Who do they speak for? And who made the statement?
Hey, it's on Huffington Post. Man.
Okay, so you don't know the answer to that, but you're trying to make the claim that these are all Democrats that support these protests throughout the country. Patrick, when you make a claim like that,
the College Democrat organization.
and I'm saying an organization that I've never heard of before. I'm trying to get some history from you and some background. How many people represented in that group? How many compared to the over half the country that are registered Democrats in this country, are you making the case that because 10 people on some sort of vote that was 8-2, that must mean that because 8 people are in support of these protests, that all Democrats support the protest? Is that what you're trying to say? Because that is ridiculous.
Well, let's take Columbia University.
Okay.
Over 60% of the university is considered very liberal.
So
Do
what?
you think there's any
So what?
conservatives out there protesting for Hamas?
Here's
Do you
the
think
difference.
there's one?
Here's the
There's not one
difference.
out there.
Okay, sure. I'll answer your question. Here's the difference between you and me. I don't make gross assumptions like you do. Never. Here's what I will say. Nobody's gone out there and polled every single person on what political affiliation they're from. You
Well,
don't
we know
hold,
the university.
hold on.
What the demographics of the university is, Brian. I just
Patrick,
told you it's over 60%
Patrick,
very
so what?
liberal.
So what? In Europe, okay, so 60% of a university is liberal. Okay,
3%
so a little more. Okay,
3%.
so let's just go with that. More than half the country is liberal. Is that an assumption that everybody that is anti-Israel must be liberal? Is that what you're trying to say?
Are you trying to say there's conservatives out there protesting for
Okay,
Hamas? Do you think
so
there's any
unlike
conservatives out
you,
there?
Patrick. Hey, Patrick. Unlike
Hey,
you.
Brian.
Good. Why
Hey,
don't you
hey,
try
Brian.
listening for 10 seconds? Otherwise, I'm going to hang up on you. Unlike you, I don't make assumptions to a political party of people that are protesting at universities across the country. The reason why I did that when it came to January 6th is because there were over 1,000 people that showed up in court, and it was presented by the prosecution in over 90% of those cases that not only
We're
were
going
they,
to
let me
January
finish,
6th now,
let
Brian?
me finish, let me finish, I'm trying to make a point. Okay, so Patrick is obviously not smart enough to understand what I'm saying, so I'm not speaking to Patrick now, I'm speaking to all of you out there, because Patrick obviously is not smart enough to understand. And I just hung up on Patrick because he interrupted me again. Patrick is trying to make the claim and the assumption, because 10 people in some Democrat organization that I've never heard of before, by the way, 10 people voted and it was 8-2 that they were in support of these protests. So you had 8 morons that voted that I guess are Democrats. So Patrick is trying to correlate that to Democrats across the country support this type of violence and this type of behavior. Obviously, that's not true. But I tried to make a correlation between this and January 6th so that even somebody like Patrick, who's obviously not very intelligent, could maybe understand. Obviously, he failed to understand, but I'll continue with you. January 6th, how do we know that over 90% of those people that were prosecuted were not only Republicans, but MAGA supporters? Because it was proven in a courtroom. I'm not making this up out of thin air. 9 out of 10 cases presented, they came from right-wing fringe groups. We knew that from their social media, and the prosecution made the case, and even in some cases, in a lot of cases, the defendants admitted the fact that they were Trump supporters and they were doing this because of Donald Trump. We know that. So that's not a gross assumption. What Patrick is doing is making an assumption that all these people must be lefty Democrats. Many of these people on these universities could be independents. They might be apolitical. They could be Democrats. They could be Republicans. I have no idea. What does it matter? What I care about is it needs to stop. Patrick, because he's a MAGA buffoon, wants to try to score political points or try to focus on the fact that, boy, these are all liberals. What normal people try to focus on is, boy, this is bad for Jewish people. This is bad for America. Let's end it. Patrick is the type of person that will spread the conspiracy theories that they spread on Fox News and OAN that George Soros is behind this. George Soros is behind this. He funded this. A Jewish man is funding these anti-Israel protests. Hey, I saw this this Democrat organization with 10 people, and they voted 8-2 that they're in favor of the protest. So that must mean billions of people in this country that are Democrat are pro these protests. You can't get any more ignorant than that. Patrick, you're an idiot. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Bobby. Bobby's next. What's up, Bobby?
Hi, Brian. I just had to call in and comment, and I heard you talk to Patrick, and you're right. He is very unintelligent, because I can say that I am a Democrat, and I in no way support Hamas or the protests. I have seen glass broken, fights, people hit with poles.
Right.
And it is anti-American. It's anti-democratic. And you are absolutely right, because Jewish kids, and I'm not Jewish either, but Jewish kids are being blocked from entering the campus, and they're scared. And it's hate crimes being done against them.
Right.
So I just feel that, and you're right, not all Republicans are against the protest, but not all Democrats are for them either.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, you can't go by political party with that. My whole family are Democrats, and none of us support Hamas or Gaza in any way, shape, or form.
And you know what? I'm happy to hear you say that. And, you know, the overwhelming majority of Democrats feel the way you feel. I speak to them every single day. I haven't spoken to one Jewish person that is pro-genocide. It is a lie. It is absurd. And the overwhelming, but here's my criticism. And Bobby, you can tell me whether you agree or not. Not criticism to you. Criticism of Democrat leadership, the Hakeem Jeffries of the world. When you have somebody like Ilhan Omar make the statement like she made the other day, when you have people like Rashida Tlaib in there, you need to call them out. You need to censor them. I want to hear more from Democrat leadership. The overwhelming amount of Democrats in office agree with you. They agree with me. But there is a small and a very small percentage of those in office that appear to be pro-Hamas. They appear to be anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. I want to hear people like Hakeem Jeffries call them out, just like they'll call out a Marjorie Taylor Greene, call out someone like Ilhan Omar, who has hatred in her. I know she made a statement on October 7th and she called out Hamas, but she also never just directly calls out one side. She also says this is happening back and forth. No, it hasn't. You know, what Hamas did to Israel doesn't just randomly go into another country and behead babies and rape children. And then the other day, Ilhan Omar is asked about anti-Semitism, which is clearly spreading across the country. And while she says she's against anti-Semitism, she says she's against it whether a Jewish person is pro-genocide or anti-genocide. It's such an idiotic statement that she made. It needs to be called out. She shouldn't be in Congress, you know?
I agree. Omar and Tlaib do need called out. And you're right. A lot of the leadership does appear anti-Semitic. And I would like to see, as a Democrat from my party, people start stepping up and calling these folks out, because that's not what we are as a party, or not at least what I thought we were as a party.
You know what I can't believe, Bob? I agree with you, Bobby. You know what? It's amazing to me. Like when I hear somebody, for example, somebody that I disagree with on just about everything, but I'll listen to like a Lindsey Graham or a Marco Rubio, and they're really tough on, this whole thing, and they're very pro-Israel, and they are saying all the right things. And I say to myself, I'm scratching my head, and I say, I can't believe I agree with a Lauren Boebert. I can't believe
Same thing here.
Yeah.
Same thing here. It's even got me wondering if I'm in the right party or not.
Yeah. Well,
this is outrageous. I mean, I can't believe they're not being called out.
So here's what I'll say to that. I understand why you're saying that, but think about 50 other issues. Gun control, the LGBT community, right? The separation between church and state, helping the poor, maternity leave, abortion, taxes. I mean, I agree with you on this issue. We are in fundamental agreement. But at the same time, it doesn't mean people like you and me can't call out leadership within the Democrat Party for being stronger on this issue. I think Joe Biden's doing a pretty good job. He's in a very difficult position. I'm not really talking about Joe Biden. I'm not even talking about members of his administration. They're doing everything they can. They're in a very difficult spot. What I am talking about, Hakeem Jeffries and those types of leaders. I love John Fetterman. I love him. I love his pro-Israel stance. He's honest. He's fair. We need more Democrats like John Fetterman. Call out the squad. I've had it with them. Call out the squad. And Bobby, I'm glad there's people like you out there, and I appreciate your call, dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, hon.
Appreciate
Have a great
it.
day.
You too. 702-221-7283. Why don't we take one more call, and then we might have to go to break. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah. Hey, Brian. Calling from California. First of all, about those so-called jihadist wannabes, I do believe what you're saying is that they are born stupid and they should have been ended up in Trump University, which is failing already.
That's funny.
Not to mention, when they say it's too hot outside and they don't have any food and they have finals to take, makes me want to say they should have thought of those before they start these so-called peaceful protests, which to me, that is no peaceful protest to me, just like with January 6th.
Yeah.
No, that ain't no peaceful protest either.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let me ask you a question. Do you agree with me that some of these students, or even if they're not students, I don't even really care, that are on these universities that are dressed up in this getup, the wannabe jihadists out there, that if they physically assault somebody who's Jewish, don't you think that should be labeled a hate crime?
It's a hate crime, yes, I do agree.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I mean, this is what the MAGA Republicans, they wanted this. They want to see more hate spread across universities and other places, and they want to make ordinary people like you and me, even those who are different skin colors, like Asians, blacks, Hispanics, to deal with those people. I mean, that's the problem.
So I agree with you in a general sense when it comes to culture wars and, gender ideology, and they want division. But I am also going to say, which I have said before, a lot of sitting Republicans are very right on this issue, and they're saying all the right things. I even agreed with Lauren Boebert yesterday. Listen, it doesn't change the fact that these people are despicable human beings, right? But at the same time, they can, a squirrel can grab a nut now and then, and they're right on this issue. I find myself agreeing with a lot of these people on the far right when it comes to this Israel-Palestinian conflict. I do.
The last thing I want to say one last thing is, and not to mention, this is what they're doing. I mean, this is what Fox News and OAN and those other right-wing media groups are doing. They're using that sort of hate to help Trump gain political points, like I say, gain political points to win the re-election for Trump.
Hey, you're not going to get an argument from me there, Joseph. What they're saying is they're saying that this is Joe Biden's fault. They're saying George Soros funded this. The Patricks of the world that are brainwashed that believe it too. Patrick is a guy where he'll take allegedly 10 Democrats that voted 8-2 in some organization I've never heard of before that are pro these rallies, and he takes that information wherever he got it from. And by the way, I don't even know if that's true. And he turns that into all Democrats are these rallies. I mean, these people are they're so brainwashed, and I don't know what's happened in this country in the last 7 years where people are so easily brainwashed into believing things that are abundantly not true, like Donald Trump won the 2020 election, like January 6th was an inside job. If you hear some moron snake like Vivek Ramaswamy make a statement like that, or some felon like Dinesh D'Souza make a stupid documentary full of lies, debunk 2,000 mules, they'll think that, there was all these illegal ballot harvesting going on. And I mean, I don't understand how you could be that stupid to believe these people. How can you be that dumb? It doesn't matter what political affiliation you're in. How could you be that stupid that you believe the MyPillow idiot, that these are your sources of information? How do they believe this stuff? I don't understand it.
I know that's the problem with these people. They don't care about the truth. They only want to continue to believe their own lies. And as for me, I rather believe in the truth, as the old saying, knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And we have to find truth. And I kind of want to pick their brains a little more and find out where they get their information from. There's a rally going on right now as I speak. I shouldn't call it a rally. It's an anti-Israel protest. And it's happening a couple of miles from where this radio station is on the UNLV campus. And some of it has gotten a little bit physical. And I want to go down there because I just want to find out, are these people as stupid as I think they are? Maybe some of them will surprise me. Maybe some of them will be like, listen, we don't want anybody to die anywhere. If they went to these protests, they said, listen, we don't want innocent Israelis to die. We don't want innocent Palestinians to die. We want a ceasefire. We're begging for a ceasefire. We have family members in Gaza. I might not agree with everything they say, but at least I would understand, right? But when you start chanting river to the sea, death to Jews, death to Israel, death to America, nobody's going to take you seriously.
No kidding.
Yeah. Well, Joseph, I appreciate you calling in, my friend. You have a good rest of your day. Okay. Thank you. When we come back, I'm going to play a little bit of audio for you from these protests, some of them taking place right here at UNLV. We'll talk a little bit about that. We got Hunter Kane that's going to be coming in studio in a little bit as well. So look forward to that. We'll ask him about this. I do want to tell you guys about my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill. Hey, it's a Vegas Golden Knights game tonight, and it's a big one. It's Game 5. So we're going to talk a little hockey maybe a little bit later in the program as well. But Jackson's Bar and Grill, the Pass the Puck contest, after a goal, you have a chance to win free slot play if you catch a 4 of a kind in a period, giving out free slot play to all. Jackson's Bar and Grill is my favorite gaming bar in town. Please check them out. Great gaming, great atmosphere, great food. Again, they're located at Flamingo and Jones. Please tell them I sent you at Jackson's Bar and Grill. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and food. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, www.hockeyforkids.org.
Voters want safe gun reform, ban military assault weapons, including AR-15s, have universal background checks, and red flag laws. I am Eva Chase, a candidate for Nevada State Assembly District 16, U.S. Air Force veteran, college graduate, progressive independent candidate, fully transitioned transgender woman, former lieutenant governor candidate for Nevada in 2022, where I received 7,212 votes in the Democratic primary. Follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok. Donate to my campaign bot fund account and stay progressive.
Residents of Las Vegas Ward 5, are you ready for a brighter future? I would like to introduce myself, Dr. Erica Smith, your people's choice for City Council. With a vision for progress and the fortitude to make it happen, I'm committed to moving us forward. I am not just a candidate, I am a fighter for you. With myself on the City Council, you can expect a real change and a community that thrives. Vote for Dr. Erica Smith because together we're building a better tomorrow. To learn more about me and my campaign, go to www.ericaforlasvegas.com or by the Vote Dr. Smith committee.
Did you know that 99% of air conditioning issues start with airflow issues? Well, guess what? Pioneer Air has your back. They've been operating for 20 years in the industry within the Las Vegas area, large enough to handle all your air conditioning and heating needs, but small enough to know your first name. Pioneer Air focuses on preventative care, much like wellness checks for humans. They believe in wellness checks for air conditioning and heating systems to extend the life of the system you own. So what are you waiting for? Schedule your wellness check with Pioneer Air today. The number to call is 702-831-4840. Here's the best news. Mention this ad and you'll receive 10% off. Call Pioneer Air today. 702-831-4840. That number again, 702-831-4840.
My name is Hunter Kane, and I'm talking with you for a call to action for our veterans in Clark County. Who is Hunter Kane? Well, I'm a decorated combat veteran, veteran community leader, and candidate for Clark County Commission. You know, no veteran has served on the commission in nearly 30 years, which is why our veteran homelessness, unemployment, and suicide rates are out of control. So here's the call to action. June 11th, vote veteran, vote Kane for Clark County. Let's rally behind someone who's been in the trenches, who knows the sacrifices, and who's committed to making a real difference. Join the campaign by searching Elect Hunter Kane on social media or go to www.electhunterkane.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, we've been talking about these protests that are happening throughout the country at these universities. And, you know, I'm getting text messages from some friends of mine that are reporters in town. They're down there at UNLV. Things got a little physical. We'll continue to monitor that. There's so much happening in the world of politics here locally and nationally. And you know, I love to talk to people that have served this country, that walk the walk and talk the talk. And I don't usually endorse political candidates, but I've had the opportunity of getting to know this gentleman personally. His name is Hunter Kane. And if you don't know who he is, well, you're going to find out. He's running for County Commission District C. He's done this show before. He served this country honorably, fought in 3 wars. He's fostered over 30 kids. I mean, his story is so incredible. I have so much respect for him. And he's running as a Democrat right here out of Las Vegas. So, Hunter, it's always good to see you. Welcome back on the program, my friend. How are you?
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm doing well. It's campaign season and it's in full swing right now, which is exciting, actually.
Well, Hunter, luckily you're not facing a criminal trial, so you're allowed to campaign.
Tell me about it.
That's it. You're not in a cold courtroom, so you're allowed to campaign. Hey, before I get to some local issues with you, we've been talking a lot about these protests throughout the country. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. What do you make of what's going on? It's happening today at UNLV. It's hit home here. What do you make of these protests?
So one of my good friends is the state director for Rise Free, and we've been closely monitoring what's going on because we do so much work with youth, with students, and college stuff like that. So we're just kind of like, it's only a matter of time before it comes here. And I remember asking him the question. I said, "Hey, what side will you kind of fall on?" He's like, "That's kind of a no-brainer. People have the right to protest." Period. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad. I don't like seeing what I'm seeing on the police side at all. Luckily our police are a little bit more restrained here in Nevada. We have a better record with all of our law enforcement in general. But it's one of those questions of, do people have the right to protest?
Sure.
And did any of these people right now get treated like it was in January 6th?
Right.
So it's kind of like they protested, then they run into the Capitol, they get a slap on the wrist.
Right.
Trump says, pardon them all.
Mm-hmm.
And then now everybody here is a thug and a criminal. And it's just kind of like, there's a double standard going on.
I think there's I think there's certainly a fundamental difference between protesting peacefully and then chanting out death to Israel or physically assaulting people. Yeah, we would agree on that. So I would, even though we might disagree on why they're protesting, the great important part, and you fought for the freedoms that we have in this country to peacefully protest. I don't have a problem with that. I guess, for me, it's treating people differently, physically assaulting people. Let me ask you this. If somebody chants out death to America, death to Jews, I understand we have freedom of speech, but can we and should we do something about people? Because I see that as like a direct threat. I mean, I know it's a slippery slope there because yes, on one hand, we have freedom of speech. You fought for that as your service to this country, but is there a line that we draw there? What are your thoughts on that?
So, and I'm not sure of your opinion before I even say mine. So this is going to be really great. I absolutely believe people have the right to say that. I think being in the land of the free means that you get to stand, on the top of the corner, yelling out that which I would spend my lifetime, fighting against. And I think that's one of the things that I fought for. Now, the difference between incendiary. So if I said, death to Hunter Kane,
right.
Okay, well, that's a direct threat.
Right.
But I think if you're airing out your different grievances.
Okay, let me take it a step further.
Okay.
Public sidewalk, I agree with you. Private property, college campuses, that's where I might disagree with you. I think if you're on a public sidewalk, the government doesn't have the right to interfere. Even though I do think that when you say death to a certain religion, that I think some people would consider that a direct threat. But how do you feel about public property versus what's happening on private property, which are these universities?
So weirdly enough, if you said public property and then you said something to the effect of a courthouse, then I think I would agree 100%. Schools are a little bit different for me. They are institutions of higher learning. So at the same time, you want people to be able to utilize, where else can they exercise their free speech in a safe way?
Right. Right.
So it's a gray area. At the same time, you see what's going on here. There's starting to be some real bad injuries going on. Young people are now throwing away their lives because some of them are going to end up with misdemeanors, some of them probably felonies, all these different type of things. So there is a fine line there. I'll be honest, I don't know where it is though.
Yeah. I think we all could agree though that if you physically assault somebody,
there's no question there.
I mean, I've seen video on social media where they're literally barricading, not allowing Jewish people to go to their classes. Why do you think these people are wearing all this stuff? Because I feel like, and I've heard this from a lot, that they're cowards. They don't want to show their faces. Because when you're chanting out death to Jews, your employer, wherever you are, they probably don't want to hire people like that. It doesn't represent their company. Do you feel like they're doing it because they're cowards?
Absolutely. So if you remember, I forget when they did the protest, But then I remember there was the Tiki Torch people, and the Jews
Charlottesville.
will not replace us.
Yep, Charlottesville.
And then they found one of the photos was a student that went to UNR.
Really?
And,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
I didn't
he
know. I
got.
don't know that. How do I not know this story? I don't know that.
Oh, he got so much hate from different people
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I think they're just getting smarter. If I cover up my face, then you can't tell who I am, and I can be your neighbor right next door, and there's no way for you to find out.
Cowards.
So I absolutely think, we're outside of COVID. We're outside of, health crises. Hey, protest, but you have to protest without a mask on, just like if you're walking into a bank. I know it's not probably going to be 100% fair, but, if you're going to stand up for what you're going to say, then show your face.
Yeah, don't be a coward.
Don't be a coward.
Yeah, I mean, you're the perfect example. You serve this country. I mean, that's why I think they're doing it. So let me ask you something else. A lot of Republicans, and you're running as a Democrat, a lot of the Republicans use the term cancel culture. Well, if I see a professor, just say I have a kid, which I don't. You have many. I don't. But if I have a kid going to a university and I'm paying their tuition, and I see a professor at the university say death to Jews or something that is absurdly disgusting, I'd be offended by that, and I would want them to fire that professor. You would understand that, right? You wouldn't consider that cancel culture, right?
No, this happened to me. I'm not going to name the school or the teacher, but I had one of them were saying unkind things about him being a foster youth. And then when they found out that I was black, he didn't like that too. So he would make these little snide comments. My son recorded them once or twice, and I did not stop until that teacher was fired. Or it's one of those, it's not a cancel culture. It's you are not the representation. You don't represent me. And I think, especially in our educational institutions, it should be representative of all. All opinions are welcomed. All viewpoints are welcomed.
I think the biggest problem here is we don't listen to each other. Like I had someone sitting in your seat. He lost 5 family members in Gaza. He came in studio a few months ago. Nice young man. Don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. He doesn't think Israel should exist, and that's a difficult for me to hear. But we still had a respectful conversation, even though I disagreed with him. He made some decent points. At times, I understand where he's coming from, and he's suffered tremendous loss.
Yeah.
I think there are 2 different types of people that are protesting, and you tell me whether you disagree with this or not. And I'm talking about the pro-Palestinian side. 2 different types of people. There are the people that are maybe young, uneducated. They don't understand what's going on within this conflict. They don't really have a good understanding of who Hamas is. They're uneducated, maybe brainwashed. I think those people are less dangerous. Then you have a percentage of people, the other types of people, that are blatantly anti-Semitic, that are river to the sea, death to Jews, death to Israel. I think these are the 2 different types of groups, and I think we need to distinguish the 2. While I don't condone either, the latter of the 2, to me, is far more dangerous, and I believe they are brainwashing younger people.
I would add in a third group then.
Sure, let's hear it.
I have many of friends who, I'm going to be blunt on your show, if that's okay.
That's okay. I do it every day.
They don't care about the conflict. They only see that you're having tens of thousands of people dying, and it's being all approved and rubber stamped from American money.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a large group of people that are saying, if Israel has the right to do this, then don't do it with America's credit card. Mm-hmm. And then other people are saying, if Palestine has the right, to defend itself, do it. So what they're seeing is just, hey, tens of thousands of people are dying. The news is reporting the majority of them are women and children. Mm-hmm. Let's stop this conflict. All the secondary things happen secondary, but they don't see that there is historical significance. They don't see all these other different things.
So I agree with you. There are a percentage of people in this
and that
country.
might be in the young group that you were talking about.
Sure. Here's the question that I know you don't speak for them, but here's the question that I would ask them. If you don't like the way Israel is handling this after what Hamas did on October 7th, how should they have handled it? You have a bunch of people, and innocent loss of life is horrible. It's tragic. I don't discount that one bit. But what should they have done then? And if somebody answers me by saying nothing, that's absurd. I'm not going to take them seriously. Or, what are they supposed to do? Raise the white flag and say, okay, Hamas, please don't do it again. I mean, they butchered a bunch of innocent Israelis, and, these members of Hamas have infiltrated themselves among innocent Palestinian people. It's a very complex situation.
It is.
So that's the question I would ask them. While I understand their concerns for innocent lives lost, I'm with you on that. I would ask them, okay, how should Israel respond then? Now, you've served and you have fought in 3 wars. So I think you're somebody, and even though you might not have all the information that the Israeli government has
Yeah.
or that our government has, and understanding that, knowing what you do know, as a former service member, you fought in 3 wars, you fought against some of the most evil the world has to offer. What do you think Israel should do? Criticisms for the Israeli government? Because I'd like to hear that from you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not stating my opinion one way or the other here. This is a conflict that thankfully the Clark County Commission does not involve.
Right.
So
But
I'm
you
not going to
served.
be on the record. But
Sure.
I'd love to debate with my kids, and we've had this
Sure.
conversation many of times.
Yep.
I remember one of the analogies given, and I want to answer your question first with a question.
Sure.
Imagine you and Mike Tyson got into a fight. It's your fault. You jump kicked him. And absolutely your fault. You did it and said, hey, I'm going to do it again. And then Mike Tyson decides to hit you in the face, knocks you straight on the ground. Not a problem. You're knocked down. You would think that's when the conflict's over. Now, if for the past 6 months, Mike Tyson has still been pounding on your face, at what point is Mike Tyson wrong? So, I mean, that's one of the analogies that they also brought up. On
I'll
the
answer
other,
that. I'll
Okay,
answer
okay.
that. If you're dumb enough, and I know it's an analogy.
Yeah.
If you're dumb enough to start a physical altercation with somebody that you know can kill you with one punch.
Yes.
Then number one, you deserve what's coming to you.
Okay.
And number two, I'm not going to feel sorry for you no matter what those physical consequences are. Now, I understand that there's a limitation. For example, and I understand the analogy you're making there. If you're an MMA fighter or a professional, you're allowed to defend yourself, but you're not allowed to kill somebody, right? So I get that part of it as well. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me ask the reverse of that, which you'll probably be able to answer also, you know, fairly easy,
Mhm.
is, you know, when we were also having these debates with, you know, my kids, and I try to turn it around and I say, okay, now imagine if you're the other side. Imagine if this is your home, you know, and then somebody breaks into your backyard and then they decide to launch a bunch of rocks and boulders and things into your house.
Mhm.
Would you want them to still be in your backyard? So it's kind of like if people are literally killing you, and it's just kind of like, no, you would want to have that sense of, I don't want them around me anymore.
Mhm.
So on the Israeli side, it's the exact same thing where it's just kind of like, this has been going on now for 50 plus years. We need to end this.
Well, there has to be a two-state solution. I
Yeah.
think that's the only, and whether Benjamin Netanyahu agrees with it or not, and he doesn't,
Yeah.
there needs to be some sort of two-state solution. But I believe if there's a two-state solution, Hamas is still going to be there. There's still going to be anti-Semitism, and they're still going to, but I believe that would be a good start. I think that's where the problem lies, where there has to be some sort of two-state solution. This war would end right now, in my opinion, if Hamas stopped, if they released the hostages, if they put their weapons down and surrendered. This war, at least for now, would be over.
You think so?
100%. I mean, in my estimation, from what I've heard and from what I've seen, there are still hostages. Hamas, this was Israel's 9/11. For now, there still needs to be a two-state solution. But if Hamas surrendered, now what would happen if Israel surrendered? Israel would cease to exist. They would be wiped off the planet. So Israel cannot do that. They just can't. That's the fundamental difference, in my opinion, between what we're dealing with here, between Hamas and Israel. Hamas surrenders, the war is over. Israel surrenders, they're wiped off the planet. To me, that's the fundamental difference in the Middle East conflict.
That's an interesting way of looking at it, because I actually never thought about that. Israel is surrounded by people who want to see them gone.
Gone. Gone.
Yeah.
And that's genocide. And what I don't like, and I know you're not doing this, and I know most people are not doing this, is when in these protests they make the claim that Israel is not only committing genocide, but that's what they want. And my response to that is, if they wanted genocide, they have the artillery, as you know. They have the artillery to wipe Iran and wipe Palestinians off the face of the earth. They have the weaponry to do that, and there'd be nothing that they could do to defend themselves. But they haven't done that. Millions of Islamic people of the Islamic faith, millions, live in Israel, free. Many people are Palestinians that live in Israel. They do.
Yeah.
And Israel allows them to live there. They live freely. So if they wanted genocide, they wouldn't even allow those people in Israel to begin with. So that's like I'm not a huge Benjamin Netanyahu fan.
I'm not a fan of his at all.
Yeah, and I think it's very fair to criticize him. I think that's very fair. And if you don't like the way Israel has defended themselves, and I think that's a very fair
I
comment.
don't think it would be over as long as he's still in power. But not Benji.
I think a lot of lives would be saved if Hamas just raised the white flag and said, okay, we surrender. lives would be saved.
I would love to see the leaders step
Yeah.
down, and then I would love to see Hamas say, "Here's them," and then I think the conversation could literally start for peace.
Yes. So we both want the same thing. We want peace. We don't want innocent lives lost. We don't want havoc, people injured, people feeling intimidated on universities across the country. There's no place for that either. But people are allowed to peacefully protest.
Yes,
and I'm with you.
Which
with
is
that.
how it started. Which
Right.
is I always hate when it starts peacefully.
Right.
And then you get some agitators, and a lot of them, from what the news is saying, they come from out of state. They come from other
We
different
saw
places.
that during Black Lives Matter protests.
Yes.
Too.
Where
Right?
it's like, stay in your
Yeah.
own state. How we
Right.
do things in Nevada and protest
Right.
is not the same how, North Carolina protests. Stay over there, please.
Isn't it? Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And it's interesting because there are people on the right that are blaming Joe. I played the audio on Fox News, blaming Joe Biden for these protests. And I say to myself, we had all those Black Lives Matter protests. Sadly, some of them turned violent.
Yeah.
I didn't hear Democrats blaming Donald Trump, right? Anytime I bring up January 6th in any way, shape, or form, they want to talk about Black Lives Matter protests. But in those situations, if you recall, there were a lot of agitators, not from that city, not even from that state, that came in and they were lighting things on fire. They were assaulting police officers. Many of them were not there for equality.
No. And if you remember, especially with January 6th, they were finding out now a lot of them came in with the understanding that there was something's going to go down. The Proud Boys and some of these other people, they were prepared for violence. They were prepared. It's not the same thing with the Black Lives Matter.
Right. And I can't stand it when, they want to blame Joe Biden for what is taking place here throughout these universities. But,
it's weird. I'm very, very much, my eyes are wide open on things. And I could sit here and probably we can go back and forth and I can tell you what's wrong, with the Joe Biden presidency that I don't like.
Sure.
However, the things that they keep coming up with is nonsense. And I think that's what really, really frustrates me. Aside from, the age, which is the only thing, which, Trump is the same darn age as Joe Biden. It's just kind of like everything else. Oh, well, look at the economy. Yeah, the economy that he inherited from somebody. We told you guys when you passed your tax bill that we're going to be paying for this 4 or 5 years later. And then what did we pay for, a few years later? We told you when, you do X that Y is going to happen. And now that Y is happening up under Biden, everybody wants to complain.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, I don't know this weird cycle, but it's about votes. So
yeah,
if I can get more people pissed off at the blue people, pissed off at the left side, pissed off at all this right here, then they'll come out and vote, for me or against the other person, which is how you win elections.
Absolutely.
Most people.
Yeah.
That's not how I'm winning my election.
I feel like there's I had a nice man in studio yesterday, former mayor of North Las Vegas, John Lee. I think he's a really nice man.
I'm such a John Lee fan.
He's a really good guy, good family man. And I agree with him on a lot of stuff. But then he says, he's going to vote for Donald Trump. And I said, John, you're a family man. How could you support this, right? And I this is my personal opinion, and John can speak for himself because I like John a lot. But I personally believe the only reason why John is supporting Donald Trump is because he realizes as a Republican, the only way he can win is if he supports Donald Trump. Because if he's anti-Donald Trump, he has no chance to defeat Stephen Horsford, right? That's my personal opinion. John is a good guy, and but I feel like there are a lot of people in office today or trying to get into office that are pro-Trump, not because they like Trump, not because they want to support Trump, but because they feel like it's the only pathway to victory. Does that make sense?
Oh, I could list off some Republicans right now that I'm friends
Please
with
do.
that are running for office. They are Team Trump because it's politically expedient.
Yeah.
There are certain issues that, rather we bring up here or somewhere else, I'm just not going to talk about. And it has nothing to do one way or the other. But, I don't ever want to be one of those fake people that I'm going to tell you the Democratic line, and especially if I disagree with it.
Sure.
But,
Can I ask you about that?
Okay.
Because I've been criticizing a Democrat the last several days, and I've criticized her before, Ilhan Omar. I just think she's despicable.
Okay.
She's asked about anti-Semitism, and any normal human being that's not an anti-Semite would say, I support these students, anti-Semitism has no place in this country, and end it there, right? But she didn't do that. She said, I support them whether they're pro-genocide or anti-genocide. And I said to myself, I don't know one Jewish person in this country that says, I'm pro-genocide. Let's kill every Palestinian.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you make a statement like that, it's incitement of violence because people that are brainwashed will hear stuff like that. Right. And I just feel like it's so dangerous. Just like I talk about Donald Trump all the time and his incitement of violence. Rashida Tlaib is another one. Right. Most Republicans and Democrats agree. Thank God.
Yeah.
Israel has a right to defend themselves. They have a responsibility for the least amount of innocent people dying. We get that, but they have a right to defend themselves. And, this hatred has no place in our society. But Ilhan Omar, is a failed congresswoman, in my personal opinion.
So I know she was recently here in town.
Was she? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
somebody told me about an event that she did.
I did not know that.
It was very last minute, and literally over this past week, she was here stumping for somebody, I think. I'll be honest, I don't know too many of her comments that she makes. I do remember the ones that made her, I believe she was censured. I wanna
About
say
the
sometime
Benjamins.
last year.
Yeah, she's made some really stupid comments, and she's apologized for some of them. Her daughter was just recently arrested on campus at one of these rallies as well. I don't blame her for that, but I just feel like there are a few extremists on the left that have no place in
Yeah.
politics.
I've tried to teach all of my sons to, hey, go out there, make sure that your voice is heard. Don't let other people speak for you. With Omar, I'm curious again to know, I've seen some of these politicians on TV and then behind closed doors. So how much of this is her playing politics with politics? It is an election year for her also. So she's trying to do her best to be able to turn around and, get as many votes as possible. And if you're trying to show that you're a progressive, or if you're trying to show that you're a moderate, or if you're trying to show that you're a leftist DSA, whatever it is, you say crazy things to get that reaction.
And I think, yeah, I agree with you. But I think there's a way to say it without going to that extent. You can be, you don't want innocent Palestinians to die. You can disagree with the Israeli government without accusing Jewish people in this country of being pro-genocide, which I think is despicable. But we certainly agree on that. If you're just joining us, he is Hunter Kane. He's running for County Commission District C. ElectHunterKane.com is his website. Yeah, and Hunter, I've talked a lot about a lot of different topics with you, both locally and nationally. So the Attorney General is going to be joining me in studio next week.
AG Ford is
yes,
awesome.
yes. And Aaron, is that the correct way to pronounce it?
Yeah,
Aaron. He likes to be called Aaron, I heard.
I've always known him as Aaron, but I guess he
Okay.
used to be Aaron and
Yeah.
then Aaron, but I've always known him as Aaron. He's
Good
a
guy.
great guy.
And I voted for him, and
Yeah.
proudly. And his former opponent, Sigal Chad, is again despicable. Said that she wanted him hanging from a crane. I mean, these are not serious people. These are dangerous people. But anyway,
No.
if you had a chance to sit with Aaron Ford, I'm curious, as somebody who's running for office for County Commission District C, what would you ask him? What would be your number one question for the Attorney General?
Oh, that's a little bit difficult. Only because we have a attorney general who is very reachable, very approachable. So questions I usually have for him, I do ask.
Oh, good.
And he's very blunt and honest with his responses, which is great. So I think I would probably ask him, something local. So maybe something to do with, what we can't do on the AG side. Might sound weird, but I hear that there is something here when it comes to slum landlords. I'd probably ask him, talk about that. We have some
That's a big
housing
problem.
issues going on here.
Throughout the country, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest. There are some. Okay, I would probably ask him, and this is probably not even according to his office. Who's like the top three politicians that he is personally not a fan of?
I would probably ask him that.
I would want to. Usually, I meet him in a professional setting, so it's not something I can ask. But it's just kind of like
No, that's a good question.
I can
yeah.
name probably two or three, politicians or local leaders or national politicians who it's just either I've met or I've heard enough from, and I'm like, nope.
You care to share any names?
I'm good. It is an
Matt Gaetz.
election year.
You got to be careful.
There are absolute people in my mind right now.
Well, I'll give you my three.
Okay.
Obviously, number one is Donald Trump, and it's not because I have Trump derangement syndrome. It's because I think he's just a despicable human being, and he's dangerous for the country.
Can I add in your number two, probably? Marjorie Taylor Greene? Is she on your list? She's on mine.
She's definitely up there. She's certainly not a serious person, and she's not a policymaker per se.
Okay.
But she would probably definitely be up there. I never thought about this. I don't know who my number two would be. I got to say Mike Johnson was up there, but after he pushed the money to go through to help Ukraine aid, I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. So he's not in my top three.
He attached the TikTok to it.
Yeah, I know.
That's frustrating to me.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that. Kevin McCarthy was definitely up there. Lauren Boebert's definitely up there. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz. So there are a bunch of people that are up there. Michael McDonald right here in the state of Nevada. I just think he's despicable.
Are there any local elected officials?
Oh,
that
sure.
you would list?
Absolutely. Jim Marchant is a joke.
Ooh,
Sigal
okay.
Chattah is a joke. Jesse Law, who was, by the way, just charged with domestic battery, is an embarrassment to Clark County. Part of, allegedly, of a fake electorate scheme. Mike McDonald as well, and all 5 of those people. There are people that are running for office nationally and right here locally that are an embarrassment.
Yeah.
They're an embarrassment.
I wish, and I don't have the answer for this, but I wish there was a way that we could, take money out of politics. And I don't mean it in, the traditional way, but it's just, he who has the most money gets to put up the most yard sign, gets to send out the most flyers and the most robocalls. And
Right.
So if there is a way, almost use that British system where you only have 120 days. And if you say anything beforehand, you're disqualified. And
I agree.
Because
it should
some
be
of
an
these-
equal playing field.
Absolutely.
I agree with that 150%.
Some of these people are a joke, and I think the only way to get them out sometimes is, we have to remove money out of politics to.
I feel like there are some people that put their name in the ring politically and they're not even serious about running. They only do it because they just want to say they're running for office. With some
Yes.
people, right? Right?
And I should not, I'm gonna get myself in trouble. That's okay. Let's
You're
get
not
myself
getting
in.
yourself
Let me
in
get myself in trouble here. I would say that for I ran in 2020, lost to Ross Miller for same seat, and now he's giving it up because he's like, I make more money in the private sector, and he's not a real candidate. He didn't really want to do the job. He was literally running to block me, and he was running just because his name was out there, wanted to be governor. And I kind of feel that the same thing with my same competitor right now,
Yeah.
where it's she was the chair in the education caucus in the Nevada state legislation. She hears I'm running, and all of a sudden jumps in, and now it's Big Daddy's money
Yeah.
is helping me win certain type of things, and I'm
I
like,
understand.
okay.
I understand that.
It's just-
I vote maybe a little bit differently than a lot of other people do. I did vote for 8 Republicans in the 2022 midterms, and I'm happy to say
Wow, okay.
every single one of those candidates were not MAGA candidates for the most part. One was sort of, but I voted for them because I know that they're good people. I knew them personally. I had met them. I had talked to them, and I got a good feeling talking to them. And, number one for me is, are you a good person? Do you have
Yeah.
a good heart? Are you a decent person? Do you care about people? Are you in this for yourself? Are you in this because you really care about public service, as clearly you do? And, I'm conflicted here. Maybe you could help me with
Okay.
this. Mayor John Lee, I really like him. I don't always agree with him, but I like him. He's a good dude, and I agree with him on a lot of stuff. And we agree on guns. We agree on gun control, even though he's pro, guns. But we agree on a lot of fundamental issues there. And he's not one of those people that says that Trump won in 2020. He's a former Democrat turned Republican. I would probably call him more of an independent. And the only thing that's stopping me from voting for him over a Stephen Horsford, because while I'm not the biggest Stephen Horsford fan, I agree with him on a number of different issues, policy. I love it when he talks about guns, his compassion. His father died from gun violence. I don't think Stephen Horsford's a bad guy. He's made some mistakes in his personal life. I don't think he's a horrible guy. But I would vote for John Lee over somebody like Stephen Horsford if he didn't support Donald Trump. And I told him that on the air. And I'm like, John, will you just don't vote? Don't vote for this guy. And that's the one thing. Am I wrong? I mean, that's the one thing that's holding me back with John, because I know he's a good guy.
You're not wrong at all. I would love an endorsement from him. I've met him several times. Genuinely a great guy. To me, unfortunately, to make a name for yourself, you're going to have to run right, or you're going to have to run left.
Isn't that? I
depending on
hate that.
I
man.
absolutely hate that too, because John is one of those people that I believe would make a great congressman.
And he
He'd make
knows-
a great mayor. He'd be great.
And he knows that Donald Trump, he knows what Donald Trump's all about. But, his Republican opponent has a commercial out, which I played yesterday. And in that commercial, which is laughable, he starts talking about, or at least the person that's doing the voiceover for him is talking about how Stephen Horsford had an affair. Okay, that's true. Horsford was in that seat. I talked to him about it. He owned it.
Yeah.
He said it's a personal issue. I got to deal with my family and look her in the eye, and I made a mistake. Okay. And then in the same note, this is the same person who is the biggest Donald Trump supporter, who's cheated on every wife he's ever had. Oh, by the way, a liable sexual abuser proven in a courtroom.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, you can't go after Stephen Horsford for having an affair when Donald Trump's never been loyal to any woman he's ever been with his entire life. It's embarrassing. I just think it's so hypocritical. Am I wrong in thinking that way?
No, and I think this is why Republicans win in so many different ways. There is a veil of ignorance that it is okay when you're a Republican. That would never fly. I mean, you can think of, Al Franken, Anthony Weiner. You can think of
Right,
even
right.
here, Reuben Keevan. You can think of all these different
Right.
Democrats. We're like, no, we're not having that. You're no longer welcomed in the party. Metaphorically speaking.
Sure.
But it's kind of like the Republican. It's like we can literally, you can do everything wrong, and we'll still tell you and worship you like you're a great guy. I could never be a Republican. There's plenty of friends that have asked me, hey, you're a veteran. You could probably win a lot, being a black LGBTQ veteran, running on the Republican side. And I was like, I could never do that. Aside from me being a hardcore Democrat. On top of that, I don't know how to put that veil of ignorance on where I'm just supposed to socially accept all of these people doing all of these different things and just think it's okay.
I agree with you. And I just feel like, Hunter, people have sold their soul to Donald Trump. They've sold their soul to politics and doing what's best for them politically, even if it means support a man who is just despicable. And these people that talk about their religion and their faith all the time, I don't want to hear it when you put politics and power over your faith. I mean, that's the part that I really struggle with. And I see such a good man come in studio. And I say to myself, man, isn't it sad, not necessarily what he's doing, but the sad where the state of politics we're in right now, where a man has to support somebody who clearly they don't like personally, clearly they know is despicable. And I asked him, I said, will you still support Donald Trump if he's a convicted felon? And he didn't really give me an answer on that one because it's a very difficult question for somebody like him who has a moral compass to have to answer, right?
But I also wonder, when it comes to someone like Mayor Lee, again, fantastic guy, love him. If he doesn't win his primary, he is now permanently stapled as a Trumpian. So when you try to find those more nonpartisan, those more center of the roads, everyone's going to remember, no, dude, that's what you supported.
That's a really good point.
So it's just kind of like, they're ruining a lot of politicians' careers. A lot of great people who don't really support, the ideals of that are now going to be permanently tainted.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was talking with somebody in the state party and, they were talking about some jobs that they were listing or something like that. And, they were making the joke how they're going to ask, have you ever, voted or supported Donald Trump on the questionnaire? They didn't do that, of course.
Right.
But they were just making the joke where that's where the state of politics is in right now, where it's, if you've supported this person, we don't want to have anything to do with you.
I mean, people can change their positions, but what I don't like is when people change their positions because it might be politically convenient for them to do so. John, I believe, changed his positions because he felt abandoned by the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
He felt abandoned. So he went to the Republican Party. I said, well, why didn't you just choose to be an independent? Runs as an independent, he has no chance to be an elected official. Let's just be honest. He just has no chance.
You have to have a tag. You have to be a Democrat or a Republican in order to be able to win here in the state of Nevada.
Isn't that sad?
It's very sad. So, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party both hate, question ballot number 3 that's coming up, but it's going to do open primaries. And I see the good and the bad in it, but I think it's going to do a lot more good because then you have an independent like John Lee, who runs under an independent banner, can now have the same access, focus, and stuff like that, and votes from all across the spectrum.
So Hunter, we've had conversations on air about your history of serving this country and how many foster kids you've brought in. I met one of your kids. One of your kids came in studio.
About that, but I'm glad it went well.
He did a great job. No, he did a really good job, and your campaign manager is a great guy. But for people that maybe want to learn more about you, like what would you say your life and what you've accomplished in your life, and you've accomplished so much besides serving this country and all these foster kids. I know you're very passionate about that. It's incredible. What else would you like to say to the people out here about you and what you're all about?
So being a politician, I have all of my great canned answers, but do you mind if I go off the rails and have something a little fun?
Go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay. So, what I don't often talk about, but I absolutely love is I actually am the captain of a, local Star Trek charity group.
No way.
So,
my dad should be a part of that. He loves Star Trek.
Please, everybody on Facebook, go to USS Hyperion. It's literally we wear the uniforms, watch the episodes, and we do a lot
Oh
of
my
charitable
God.
things all around town. So it's
So you're in the whole getup.
in fact, if you go to electhunterkane.com, I have a picture on there, and I am actually the one that's in blue. So I literally do the face paint full blue. My hands are blue. I'm a Bolian in the Star Trek world.
I got to send you my William Shatner interview. I interviewed him a couple years ago. It was
Did
one of
you
the,
really?
one of the funnest interviews I've ever done. It was so much fun talking to him, man. It's William Shatner.
Yes.
You know, my dad is a huge Trek guy.
Every year we're at the Star Trek convention, thanks to Creation Entertainment.
That was at the Rio. Where is it
It's
now?
at the Rio
Is it
this
still
year.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Creation, is nice enough to, have us come in and do like a photo booth. So we never charge anything or anything like that, but we always do something. One year we had a Star Trek bridge. Another one we had an agonizer. These might be words you may not know, but
I'm not a big Trekkie. I'll be honest with you, but I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty awesome out there, and we're showing some pictures of it, by the way, right now.
Are you?
Yeah. Numchuck got some pictures up there. We're showing it. Wow. So you guys really go all out, though.
we go all out. And we were under the banner of Star Trek, but
Yep.
we're kind of a nerd culture. So one of the things that I would tell people is I'm a huge nerd. So Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, all the stars, battle stars, and things like that. I'm a nerd when it comes to a lot of different type of areas, and I actually believe, Star Trek. One of the things I think drew it to me is their belief in infinite diversity and infinite combination. So IDIC, where it's just it's okay that we disagree. It's okay, but we want to have those differencing of opinions in a.
Beam me
in
up,
the same
Scotty.
way.
Did you ever meet anybody from the show?
We've met several people. So we're at the convention. So of course we're meeting the different stars.
Sure, that's cool.
I'll have to send you a picture of one of my walls in my house in the living room. It's a bunch of autographs
I
from a
love that.
lot of different stars.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, my dad's a big Trekkie, so I'm gonna have to get him involved in this. This sounds like a lot
USS
of fun.
Hyperion. It's
All
a
right,
great thing.
we'll have people go to that. That's super cool. We also want people to go to your website, which is electhunterkane.com. Not to be confused with, and I've said this before, Herman Cain. I always say that because, like, I haven't called you that yet. I know it's going to happen once.
It's happened more times.
But I know you have nothing to do with making pizza. But no, Hunter, a very different person that I will be voting for. I did not support, and I would never support the late Herman Cain. But electhunterkane.com, is that the best way for people to get to know a little bit more about you and donate to your campaign?
Absolutely. They can also, on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, just search up Elect Hunter Cain. It'll pop right up. We're always asking, if you don't have money to give, campaigns, the reason that candidates always ask for money is because it allows us to buy more access to people. The better way of doing that is literally go to my social media, share, tweet, all these different type of things on my social media platform. So Elect Hunter Cain, and if all you can do is saying, hey, I can't give money, but all your posts, I'll reshare them with my friends. That'd be great enough.
I said this at one of your events, and I'll say it again. We need more people like you representing us. We need more people like you that have walked the walk and talked the talk. You risked your life for this country, serving in 3 wars, and being such a huge part of so many kids that you fostered, over 30. What's the number now?
It's 36 right now.
It's unbelievable.
But hopefully you'll invite me to come back again, because this
would love
month
to.
is actually National Foster Care Awareness Month.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So we'll have to talk about that also.
And maybe
next
bring
time.
a few of your kids in. I met
I'd love
a
that.
few of them already. Later on this month, I'd love to have you back in and maybe bring a couple members of your family in. I think that would be awesome. And you certainly have my support. And we're pulling for you in June. And again, you're the type of person that I want to represent me. And I think a lot of people in Clark County and a lot of people, particularly here in Vegas, are going to show that at the voting booth come June. June 11th. 11th, yeah.
June 11th, Elect Hunter Cain.
Yes, June 11th. Hunter, it's always a pleasure having you in. We'll have you in again at the end of the month. I love it when we just mix it up and talk about any of the stuff that's going on, not just locally, but nationally. And we'll see you again soon, Hunter. And I appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we will see everybody tomorrow. Subscribe to my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. You could be watching on the Occupy Democrats Facebook page. Subscribe there. It's only $5 a month. The Washington Press Network, we're there now. Twitter or X, YouTube, TikTok, we're everywhere. And of course, the FM AM dial on KSHP. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.